Good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, and this is Patricia and David at ZMH286. We are on 8779 this morning, one of our alternate frequencies because of the heavy radar tractor noise on 8752. Well, it's very noisy here on 8752, and I suspect it will be in your area as well. So we will be on this frequency unless this one, sometimes it does move around a bit. So if we do have problems, don't forget that we also have the option of 8297. I'm just going to pause to see if Harry can give me a report from over there in Newcastle. Nothing heard, so just let me know. I will do quite a few pauses this morning because there's a lot to get through, and we don't want to lose people because a lot of you are getting on the way today. So I know it's an important day for you. So and just to let a few of you know, we have got your emails. The Lark, yes, we've got your email heading off from Santo. And we've got Tregoning, I always pronounce that wrong. Good morning, Randall and Alison, and heading off tomorrow. And we've got a few others heading off tomorrow from the islands. It's been pretty snotty up there, and I can understand how many of you are wanting to just give it a little bit of a chance to settle down. So I think some of you from the Vavau Hapai area are going to delay until tomorrow. Sounds good. It's always nice to not have it too rough to get going. And it reminds me, actually, I was just thinking last night, we set off from, where the hell were we when we left with Q2 to cross the Atlantic? Anyway, we left in very rough conditions, and normally we have a piece of umbrella that I made to cover the bow of the boat, and particularly the area where the chain comes into the chain locker. We didn't put that on, and about half a day out, I said to David, I'm just not steering very well. There's too much time at anchor.
You're in the Canaries.
And it wasn't the Canaries. And it turned out when he went down to the head, which was in the head, the bow of the boat, that the chain locker and sail locker were full of water because of the rough conditions that we were pounding into. So do take care to seal everything up that you know needs to be sealed up before you get going. Even if it is tranquil when you get going, it might not be that for the entire trip. All right, just a little, I've selected our 3 boats here that are scattered between Obsession up there at 28 and Flying Fish down at almost 31. So we'll start at the top. Obsession are at 2842 and 17321. They still have their 20 knots of easterly, 1 to 2 metre southeast swell, 90% cloud cover, and the bar is 1028. Heat wave are at 2946. They may or may not copy us this morning. We will probably have to email them about their ideas of going to Picton. But anyway, they're at 2946 and 172 east, and they have east, northeast 13 to 15. So as you can see, it's dropped from the 20 to 13 to 15, and an easterly 1.5 metre swell, a bit of swell from the southwest as well, actually. And further south, Flying Fish, who's absolutely in idyllic conditions today, 3052 and 17512. And he only has 266 miles to Opua, but his wind is east 12. Well, it's actually just a tad north of east 12, and a little bit of cirrus around, 1028, and less than 1 metre easterly swell. So you can see that it does improve as you get closer to the centre of the high. That will be of some interest to those people that have to put up with some stronger conditions further north.
Better in the beginning than the end.
So, and David has just said, better in the beginning than at the end. Oh, well, thank you for those words of wisdom.
Yes, you're very welcome. I'll pass the pot.
All right, let's get on to a little bit of news. I'm just going to pause to make sure that radar noise has not meandered across here. Okay, folks, the radar has stopped on 8752. The radar has stopped, so I am going to go back to 8752 in case others have not found us. So back we go. All right, here we are on 8752, folks. I guess it's just set to try us, isn't it? First thing in the morning. A bit of news. The drama from Saudi Arabia and Turkey continues. The Saudis have admitted that Mr. Khashoggi, the writer, reporter for the Washington Post, dissident from Saudi, was in fact killed in the Turkish consulate there, well, the Saudi consulate in Turkey. The big argument now is who organised it. Was it the new young fellow, or was it the king, or whatever? But anyway, he was slain, and evidently the Turkish folk say that he was then dismembered and removed. So hopefully they cleaned up, because there is now a group in the embassy, or in the consulate, looking for evidence. Not sure what tools we use for that job. It doesn't really worth their thinking about. Anyway,
there is an arm.
Oh yes. Anyway, I won't tell you what David's just said. Moving on to Sweden, and I know we have some Swedish folk out there. You had a big vote yesterday, which you missed, in Sweden to decide whether you wanted to get into the euro currency or not. When you joined the euro, and others joined the euro, Sweden, Denmark and the UK decided to keep their own currency. So Sweden had a vote and decided no to going into the euro. They're going to stick with their krona. It was actually a very important one as far as the Brexit negotiations go, because it would have made life even more difficult for the UK if they had decided to change their currency there. So there you are. If you go home to visit, you will still have valid kronas. Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen died, 65 he was. Evidently about 10 years ago he had this non-Hodgkin's lymphatic cancer, and they thought it was cured, but it came back a month ago and he died very, very quickly. So he was the billionaire co-founder of Microsoft, and in later years he's been spending his money on real estate and sports teams and donations and stuff like that. So that was a very sudden death for him. Japan. Moving to Japan, I said we didn't have much Asian news. I thought I should tell you about their big military display that they had in the weekend, dominated by warning and surveillance activities, but they wanted to show the sophistication of what they have. They cooperate with the USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand and Canada, and wanted to send a very clear message to China that they have the tools to do their bit in the region. Okay,
Excellent.
there is, if you've been listening, the Kiwis that are listening to us on any news from New Zealand, it has been dominated this last 24 hours by a great political hoo-ha in the National Party. Our National Party is not the party in power at the moment. It is led by Simon Bridges, and there was a big strife between him and an Auckland MP, Jamie Lee Ross. Jamie Lee Ross has accused Bridges of accepting a $100,000 donation and hiding it from a local Chinese businessman who, by the way, National got a Queen's Award for in the last Queen's Birthday Award. But anyway, Ross got expelled from the caucus, and then he resigned with great fanfare. And now he's going to, of course, create another election in his Botany electorate, and he's going to stand as an independent. He's going to take his accusations to the police today, and presumably that will give our news people something to talk about. It will get a bit boring. Who the hell cares? But anyway, that's all the drama in New Zealand at the moment. Formula 3. I just forgot to mention on Monday that Mick Schumacher, son of the famous Michael Schumacher, has won Formula 3 this year, and that entitles him to get into Formula 1 if and when a place comes available. So that's amazing, keeping it in the family there. Getting back to New Zealand, those folk that are on the way and about to get on the way, you will notice a few changes when you arrive. There has been the highest inflation in the last quarter that there has been in some time. Petrol up 19%, cigarettes and tobacco up 11%, transport costs up 5.6%, local authority rates up 5.1%, construction costs 4.1%, household utilities, that's the old water, power and gas, up 3.1%, rental homes up 2.3%. So you'll really see a bit of a change when you get here. I would have thought that some of those figures would actually be higher, but anyway, costs have gone up in New Zealand. You really, really need to have the British pound or the US dollar or any other currency rather than our Pacific peso. But anyway, that's what you'll be faced with when you arrive. The Ford Ranger, it was funny this, it's now been released. It is the #1 new vehicle seller by numbers in New Zealand. And we were only just commenting on the road a couple of days ago how everyone seems to be driving around in a pickup truck. So the Ford Ranger, they've latched on to the fact that it is actually a good family car. They've really tarted up the inside of it, and so it can be a multi-use vehicle. It's much more useful off-road than your average SUV, and it's certainly quite fancy what the 2019 options are for the Ford Ranger. But there are a lot of different pickup trucks on the road, so you'll see that when you arrive. Okay, I think that's about it. Hopefully, I'm just going to do a pause to see if there's anything else. Taranui, Taranui, good morning. Graham, go ahead. Okay, you're on your way. Boy, you must have headed off pretty rapidly this morning. David will cover what's ahead of you. So still looking good. And good morning to Lynn as well. Thank you for confirming that. I've just noticed on streaming that it is raining. John is reporting in from up there at Bunda. Rain, 100% cloud and light winds. Well, light winds is not too bad to leave after what you've been dealing with. So thank you for that. Bit different from the boat that reported having left at New Caledonia for Australia. So we've got a few of you that are doing that. So I'm going to see if there's anybody else. The frequency sounds pretty good, the fact that I could actually hear you, Graham. So is there anybody else?
Malua.
Go ahead, Harry, Malua.
I left yesterday at noon and going to Cross Harbour. Winds 25 to 30 last night, dropped down to 15, and now he's a bit confused. But for those that are waiting, it looks good out here.
Thank you for that. In case it's too close for those that are waiting to leave New Cal, Harry left and had 25 to 30, but it's 15 now with confused seas a little bit. So thank you for that. And just a reminder, I got a very explanatory email from Andrew on iCandy. Thank you for that. Just to confirm that the cruiser, the South Pacific Cruiser Net, is on morning and nighttime. So thank you for that. And it is on 6209. And I'm just looking for the fact that it's 2000, that's this morning, which is not too far away, and 8 o'clock in the evening as well. 0800, should I say, UTC. All right, I still can't find his email as I'm scrolling through, but anyway, that's off the top of my head. Here it is. I've got it now. All right, so yes, 2000 Zulu and 800 Zulu. I remembered correctly, 6209. For those people that want to keep in touch with each other, there are net controllers. iCandy, Pelorus Jack, Mesaluna, Elsion, Mazu, Malua, and Sarani.
What's the name of the net?
The name of the net, well, I actually asked that. It's called the South Pacific Cruises Net, or the SOPAC net, and 6209 is the frequency. All right, it's time to start the weather, and here is David.
Well, good morning, everyone. Those of you that have left, thinking about leaving, and are going to leave today or tomorrow. I wanted to share with you NOAA's blocking data. This relates directly to this particular passage and conditions that we've got now. If we look at the South Pacific, we find an enormous, absolutely an enormous blocking profile just to the west of Cape Horn. Just to the west of Cape Horn. Now, it's this major block that's holding up the works, if you will, sort of like a blocked toilet pipe downstream. This means that the next upper trough and subsequent upper ridge are pretty much at a standstill. Now, this is of very great importance to the current passage window. Briefly, looking at this, coming Friday at 500 millibar, a very, very nice ridge indeed sits over New Zealand. And in contrast, we have a nasty shortwave trough that lies over the Oz Bight. So, given all that, let's take a look at the synoptic picture for today. Now, the dominant feature is, of course, the big fat high. That's the term that seems to be used now. It's been used for a couple of years. But these are highs that are very large in area and usually up there in central pressure. Anyhow, by lunch, expect 1032 millibar as it takes over virtually the entire southwest Pacific. The center closed isobar is roughly at 36 and 168 east, 36 and 168. And it's got anticyclonic isobars that are extending all the way equatorward, all the way up to 15 south. This thing is enormous. Within the high now are some troughs, and we've explained how that can happen. So we've got a few troughs that are in there that you'll encounter on your passage. One is centered just to the west of Newcastle. There's another pesky one over Fiji, and we've got a quasi-stationary front over northern Tonga. Now, this one runs more or less west-east, as is typical. Now, nothing really changes through lunch tomorrow, and by Friday, the center of the high is going to be smack dab over New Zealand's North Island. So, as you can see, it's hardly moving at all, and that's extremely good news for this passage. Now, the best day, really, to depart from Tonga or Minerva, I would say is Thursday. Now, I know a few of you have already left, and conditions sound pretty good as well, but I was picking Thursday as being the best of all the days. Now, the wind is going to pick up Friday through Saturday for Tonga. So we've got a little bit of a gap, if you will, a little bit of an ease at that point on Thursday. So we're lucky there. Now, the Minerva yachts should be, if you leave Thursday, you should be arriving around the Monday time frame with winds north to north-northwest with a very weak convective band and a rather meager low, which is probably going to fade by Tuesday. Now, the most recent runs, particularly GFS, shows a cold front over New Zealand by Friday the 26th, and that's preceded by northwest winds. All yachts, I think, should be able to achieve this ETA if you leave no later than Thursday. And these are yachts, no matter where you're leaving from, whether it be Fiji, Tonga, New Caledonia, whatever. You should be able to get to New Zealand by that point, 26. Now, if you don't make it for some reason or other, there is a weak high that does move in over the following weekend. But this is quite a ways off, so stay tuned for developments with regard to that. Now, the EC model shows the front a day or two later on older runs, but the most recent EC run is more in agreement with GFS now, which is always a good sign. So I'm going to stick with that date, the 26th, for that frontal band. And if you keep the pedal to the metal, which shouldn't be very hard to do with the winds that we've got, that's when you should be arriving into New Zealand, or even before that. Now, up in the tropics, we've got quite an active trough that runs from basically 10 south over Rotuma, and it goes on to Wallace, heads over to Niue from there and on to the southern Cooks. And the next trough, which is over the Solomons, that goes over Vanuatu, the northern part of Vanuatu, and then onwards to Fiji and off to 25 and 175 west. So that's the track of that particular trough. Now, our subtropical low near 27 and 160 east is sending a trough to New Caledonia and the Loyalties. We discussed in some detail that low pressure system yesterday. Looking at Tonga now, the trough does sit over the northern parts of the group. While we have a strong wind warning that is in force, it remains in force. It's been there now a couple of days. I'm seeing east-southeast 25 knots, easing a bit to about 20 knots in a few areas up and down the chain. Thursday and Friday about the same, but a little bit more wind on Saturday. I think we're going to be back up to about 25 knots. In fact, that'll be probably Saturday and Sunday. So those that are departing Thursday, that looks the best of the lot for Tonga. Now, Fiji is the land of mildew. There's an active trough continues to harangue the country. Plus, Fiji Met has issued a strong wind warning that's been in place a few days now, and a heavy rain warning as well. And satellite imagery does confirm all of this. It's a mess if you're looking at satellite imagery. Now, the trough, as you're painfully aware, is very slow moving. So hopefully your Kindles are working and you've got some paperbacks to enjoy the next 24, 48 hours. Now, expect southeast winds 25 to 30, gusting 35. Rough to very rough seas out there. I don't think anybody is going to be moving very much unless you are making your break to New Zealand. Now, there are thunderstorms about, so be very wary about these as well. Now, I do see a bit of a wind ease tomorrow, 15 to 20 for the top half of the country and roughly the 20 knot range for the southern half. And this is in open water as well. Now, I know we had a few boats leave today, a few days ago. That's fine. You can put up with it when you get out into the open water, all the more power. A little bit more wind on Friday, similar to Tonga. So Thursday, again, may be the day to leave for New Zealand, if in fact you are leaving. Now, by Saturday at about 20 south, I see easterlies. That's a pretty nice direction, isn't it? Easterlies at about 25 knots. In fact, I see easterlies right through Tuesday, the 23rd, almost all the way down to 30 south, give or take on that. And lighter air by Tuesday as well, when you get down that far. I would say in the 15 knot range. And the reason for that is you're getting closer to the center of the high. And obviously we don't have that pressure gradient that we ordinarily have on the fringe. So things will just improve as you head south. Now, come Wednesday, we'll see the winds backing, this is next Wednesday, east to east-northeast to northeast, and possibly northerlies. It all depends on what your longitude is. In other words, whether you're coming in from Tonga or whether you're coming in from New Caledonia. Okay, over to Vanuatu now. The main trough band does run over the top half of the group. Imagery shows breaks between Vila and Erromango, but then cloud again over Tanna and Anisham, and that's from that subtropical low that's to the east of Hervey Bay. Now, the winds aren't too bad. I see east-northeast in the 15-knot range from Port Vila north. South of there, easterlies 15 to 20, favoring the 20-knot, I think, and there are some areas of 25 knots. So a little bit of everything for Vanuatu. And, yep, that pretty much is it for that place. If you have any questions, specific questions, give us a call. Over to Newcal now. Newcal's fantastic weather has come to a halt. The trough from the subtropical low has put paid to that. Expect east-northeast winds 20 to 25, gusts to 30. Now, the loyalties are copping the worst of it. I still see some cloud and showers on Thursday, tomorrow, but there is going to be a bit of an ease in the wind. So east to east-northeast winds about 15 to 20. Easterlies on Friday, 15 to 20, and scattered showers. So I would say Thursday, if you're leaving Newcal, would probably be about the best day. Now, the passage to Australia from Newcal, heading toward the Hervey Bay area, north or south of Hervey Bay, give or take, now looks to be fairly reasonable, also leaving on Thursday. By the 23rd, which is Tuesday, the winds on the coast should be in the north and north-northeast direction. Now, the trough that I was concerned about yesterday at landfall looks to have fizzled a bit. It's still there from what I can see, but it appears to be falling apart by then. So that's pretty good news for those trying to get to Oz. Now, what else do I have? We're about at the end of this here. Yeah, I guess Thursday, just looking at things in general, looks like the best departure day to New Zealand, no matter where you are. Now, this should be a reasonable passage so long as the New Zealand high remains slow moving. We should see a pretty good passage. By Wednesday, the 24th or so, the winds approaching New Zealand are going to be backing to the north-northwest, that sort of thing, and they could be up around 20 knots, but that's a very good direction. So that's what we're looking at. If you have any questions or comments, come now. I think given the fact that virtually everybody, from what we can see on emails, will be gone by tomorrow, I'm not sure how I'll give the weather at this point. Probably touch base on the general conditions between the islands and New Zealand. Not get into any real detail unless you want to call in and give us your report. And that would be very worthwhile, by the way, if you can call in tomorrow. I know that if you're bouncing around, you may not be in the mood to do it, but that will help not only me, but it will help the people that are behind you, and they'll be able to note what your conditions are. Okay, that's it. I'll pass it over to the chief. Any questions, come down.
Okay, and just to report that Zen, he's single-handed to New Zealand in a Beneteau 43. He will arrive tomorrow. He's done very, very well, and Gracias is about a day behind him. So they've got some mild conditions to arrive in after their energetic trip. All right, and don't forget, we do carefully look at emails to look at who's going where. So just let us know so that we know when you leave and what direction you're going. And if you are a new boat for me, then just let us know what sort of boat it is so that we know what sort of speed to expect, or tell us, actually. All right, is there anybody with anything that we have not covered? Any relays from anybody?
Oh, one thing for Heatwave. Well, Heatwave doesn't hear us.
No, you might have to get back to them.
I was going to talk about Heatwave and their trip down to Pectin, but they can't hear us anyhow, so we'll handle that with emails. For anyone else that's considering that, it's a very iffy proposition. They'll be getting in the Tuesday time frame, I think it is, and it's quite possible it's a doable trip with winds behind the beam. But on the other hand, it could be the other way around. It could be headwinds, but the winds do look fairly light because of the proximity of the center of the high. So there you go for that. Here's the chief.
And there was somebody else going to Picton, and I'm just looking at my list here to find out who it was. Well, you'll know who you are. So there you go. I think it was Kuan Yin, but yes, it is Kuan Yin. You'll know who you are, Josh. Okay. Anybody? Well, I think that we've given sufficient calls. Good morning to you all, and the frequency is now yours. We will be back again tomorrow. Just a reminder, we are on 8752 as our main one. We will go to 8779 if there is radar here, because it's just up and I don't have to change my antenna. And if that's a problem, 8297. And other than that, you know that we are available on email, ghradio@extra, which is just xtra.co.nz. If anyone's bored and wants to swat up about anything to do with weather, 500 millibar analysis or whatever, you can go to our website, which is ghradio.co.nz. All right, that's it for us for today. Have a good day. It's still grey and not very pleasant outside, but at least it's dry. Well, actually, there's a tiny bit of blue sky, and it's still only 14 degrees. But there you have it. I'm sure you've got your winter woolies ready. Cheers, everybody. The frequency's all yours.